He was told he was too small, too quiet, too shy to ever make it as a professional footballer. This is the story of how that same player became a giant who conquered the world. You are not going to want to miss a second of this, so make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications for more legends of the Football League. In the sprawling, concrete-laden suburbs of Paris, a world away from the glittering lights of the Eiffel Tower and the romantic cobblestone streets of Montmartre, life moves to a completely different rhythm. This isn't the Paris you see on postcards. In Rueil-Malmaison, a young boy named N'Golo Kanté grew up largely unnoticed, almost a ghost in his own neighborhood. He was small for his age, quiet by nature, and possessed a profound shyness that often made him seem invisible. But while the world might have overlooked him, N'Golo was constantly in motion, a tiny, determined figure, with a fire and a purpose that burned far brighter than his years. His parents had arrived in France from Mali back in 1980, chasing the universal dream of a better life for their family. But that life was far from easy. His father worked as a brick picker, a grueling job, while his mother worked as a cleaner. From the moment he could understand it, N'Golo was taught the gospel of hard work. While other children were out playing games, he would walk for miles and miles through the eastern Parisian suburbs, pushing a heavy cart, his eyes scanning the ground, scavenging for valuable scrap metal to sell. It was a humble, arduous existence. But it was here on these long, lonely walks, with the clang of metal in his ears and the strain in his young muscles, that the foundations of a legend were unknowingly being laid. He was building more than just a small income for his family. He was building an engine, a reservoir of stamina that would one day become the absolute envy of the entire sporting world. Then came the summer of 1998. France was gripped by a collective, joyous euphoria. The FIFA World Cup was on home soil, and a magnificent multicultural team led by the majestic Zinedine Zidane was marching unstoppably towards glory. The faces of Les Bleus were everywhere, plastered on posters, their names chanted like hymns in the streets, their victories uniting a nation in a way only football can. For an 8-year-old N'Golo watching these heroes, men like Lilian Thuram, Patrick Vieira, and Thierry Henry, many of whom shared his own African heritage, it was nothing short of a revelation. He saw more than a football team. He saw a path. He saw a dream. That World Cup victory wasn't just a national celebration. For the small, quiet boy from Rueil-Malmaison, it was a deeply personal inspiration. He made a decision that would change his life and football forever. He was going to play. His first real steps into the world of organized football were taken at JS-sur-Aisne, a small amateur club nestled in the western suburbs of Paris. He was nearly 10 years old, a late starter by the blistering standards of the modern game. When he first arrived, the coaches saw exactly what everyone else had always seen: a boy who was noticeably, almost shockingly smaller than every single one of his teammates. One of his first coaches, Pierre Ville, recalled that N'Golo looked like he was half the size of the other boys. They worried. They whispered to each other, "He'll be pushed around. He won't be able to compete. He'll get hurt." Their worries lasted for about 10 minutes. The moment the training session began, the whistle blew and the ball started rolling. His size became completely and utterly irrelevant. N'Golo was a whirlwind, a force of nature. He was everywhere at once, a blur of perpetual motion that defied logic. He would make a crucial tackle on a player over on the right wing, and mere seconds later, he'd be on the far left of the pitch, intercepting a pass no one else had even seen coming. He played with a tactical intelligence, a footballing brain that was simply astonishing for his age. He didn't just run. He anticipated. He saw the game 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of everyone else on the pitch, positioning himself perfectly to break up plays before they could even begin to threaten. His coaches were mesmerized. They'd just watch him shaking their heads in disbelief. He was small, yes, but when he played, he completely outclassed everyone, his youth coach Vocati Touré would later say. They quickly learned to stop judging him by his height and to start appreciating the giant heart and the colossal lungs that powered his diminutive frame. Off the pitch, he remained the same shy, humble N'Golo, while his teammates would chatter excitedly about flashy cars, big contracts, and the glamorous life of a pro. N'Golo remained grounded, his feet firmly planted in reality. He would be the first to arrive at training and always the very last to leave. If the club needed someone to help collect the cones and bibs or to lock up the changing rooms, N'Golo would quietly volunteer. No fuss, no need for thanks. His humility was just as remarkable, just as world-class as his stamina. He never complained. He never demanded attention. He simply put his head down and worked. For nearly a decade, he was the beating heart and soul of JS Suresnes. But as he entered his late teens, that old familiar obstacle stood stubbornly in his way. Professional clubs sent their scouts. They'd watch the games scribble in their notebooks, and they all came back with the exact same frustrating report. Great player, incredible engine, fantastic attitude, but he's too small. The Paris Saint-Germain, Rennes, Lorient, Sochaux, one by one they all passed on him. The world of professional football, with its obsession with physicality and imposing athletic prowess, simply couldn't see past his 5'6" frame. It was a period of deep biting frustration, a time when a lesser person, a person with less belief, might have given up. But N'Golo was not a lesser person. He just kept running. It's a moment of pure frustration. What would you do in that situation, when the world keeps telling you that you're not good enough, not big enough for your dream? How do you find the strength to just keep running? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. His break, when it finally came, arrived from the most unlikely of sources, the reserve team of US Boulogne, a club in the gritty north of France. It wasn't a glamorous move. This was the world of amateur divisions, of muddy, rutted pitches and small, dedicated crowds huddled against the wind. But it was a chance, and a chance was all N'Golo had ever needed. He packed his bags, said goodbye to his family, and left the familiar streets of Paris for the very first time. At Boulogne, the story simply repeated itself. He was quiet, unassuming, and he worked harder than anyone else on the team, maybe harder than anyone they'd ever seen. He was a model of practicality. He brilliantly balanced his football with studying for a vocational diploma in accountancy. He knew deep down that the odds were stacked against him, and he wanted a backup plan, a safety net. His new teammates would often joke about his tiny little scooter, the one he used to get to and from, training a stark, almost comical contrast to the sleek cars of the senior players. But on the pitch, there was no joking. His performances for the reserve team were so utterly dominant that he was soon promoted to the first team, which was then playing in Ligue 2, the second tier of French football. He made his professional debut on the final day of the 2011-2012 season. The team was heartbreakingly relegated to the third division that day. But N'Golo, the new kid, had made his mark. The following season down in the Championnat National, he became indispensable, the absolute linchpin of the team. He missed only one league game all season, a tireless, relentless presence in the heart of their midfield. His relentless energy had not gone unnoticed. In 2013, SM Caen, a more ambitious Ligue 2 club, with promotion on their minds, signed him. And it was here, under the astute guidance of manager Patrice Garande, that Kante truly began to flourish into the player we know today. Garande saw the raw potential and built his team's entire midfield around him. "I told him, N'Golo, don't you worry about moving forward," Garande later said. "I told him, just win the ball. Just get me the ball back and I'll have other players, more creative players, to do the attacking." N'Golo did more than just win the ball. He completely and totally dominated the midfield. In that 2013-2014 season, he was a key figure in the engine room. As Caen stormed to promotion into Ligue 1, he had done it. He was finally going to play in the top flight on the very same stage as the big, powerful clubs that had once so casually rejected him. His first season in League One was nothing short of a revelation. While Kante battled bravely to avoid relegation, N'Golo was putting up numbers that were simply astonishing. He made more tackles and more interceptions than any other player in all of Europe's top 5 leagues. He was a statistical anomaly, a one-man defensive wall. The quiet boy from the Parisian suburbs was now being talked about in hushed, excited tones in scouting departments all across the continent. He had proven beyond any shadow of a doubt that size was no barrier to success. His engine, forged in the hardship of pushing scrap carts and honed by years of running tirelessly on muddy pitches, was more than enough. In the summer of 2015, a phone call came from England. The voice on the other end was Steve Walsh, the celebrated head of recruitment at Leicester City. Leicester was at the time a modest Premier League club that had just pulled off a great escape, narrowly avoiding relegation. Walsh was a shrewd, brilliant scout with a reputation for finding hidden gems, diamonds in the rough. He had seen the data on Kante, and he was absolutely convinced he had found the one player who could completely transform their midfield. He flew to France to persuade N'Golo in person. "We're telling you," Walsh implored, "you're going to play in the Premier League, you're going to be a star." But N'Golo, in his typically cautious and humble manner, was hesitant. He wasn't sure. Was he really ready for the speed, the raw intensity of English football? Walsh was persistent. He famously and brilliantly simplified it for him. "Don't you run around and tackle people. We just want you to do that. But in England." Eventually, N'Golo agreed. Leicester paid a fee of £5.6 million, a figure that would soon be regarded as one of the greatest, most inspired bargains in the history of football. He arrived in Leicester, a quiet Frenchman in the heart of England, and was introduced to his new manager, the charming and affable Italian, Claudio Ranieri. The 2015-2016 season was supposed to be another grueling relegation battle for Leicester City. The bookmakers had them at 5,000 to 1 odds to win the league. It was a laughable prospect. What followed was not just a footballing miracle. It was one of the greatest underdog stories in the entire history of sport. And right at the very heart of it all was N'Golo Kanté. He was unlike anything the Premier League had ever seen before. He played with the boundless energy of 2 players, sometimes 3. His new teammates were in absolute awe. They would finish a punishing training session completely exhausted, gasping for air, only to see N'Golo heading off for a casual run on his own. They started joking that he was so shy he didn't want the attention of celebrating his own goals, so he would just pass the ball to someone else and immediately run back to his position. Ranieri, with his wonderful Italian charm, perfectly captured his new midfielder's essence. "This player, Kante, he was running so hard that I thought he must have a pack full of batteries hidden in his shorts," he said, laughing. "He is a special player. He's like a little rash. He appears and then he's everywhere." Leicester's strategy was beautifully simple. Defend with resolute, unbreakable spirit and hit teams on the counter-attack with the lightning pace of Jamie Vardy and the dazzling magic of Riyad Mahrez. This strategy was only possible because of N'Golo. He was the shield. He was the engine. He was the man who won the ball back again and again and again, turning defense into a devastating attack in the blink of an eye. The saying among the Leicester players became famous, a line that perfectly defined him. 70% of the earth is covered by water, the rest is covered by N'Golo Kanté. As the season wore on, the impossible, the unthinkable started to seem possible. Leicester just kept winning. They beat Manchester City, they beat Chelsea, they beat Liverpool. And in every single game, N'Golo was a blur of blue, a tireless, smiling force of nature. On May 2016, the fairy tale was complete. Leicester City were champions of England. In the midst of the wild citywide celebrations, N'Golo remained N'Golo. While his teammates were out buying supercars to mark the occasion, he continued to drive his modest second-hand Mini Cooper. He was a global superstar now, a champion against all odds. But he was still at heart the humble boy from Rueil-Malmaison. He had achieved the impossible. But this was just the beginning of his conquest. If you love incredible underdog stories like this and want to see how he went on to conquer England all over again, and then the world, make sure you're subscribed to Legends of Football League so you don't miss what comes next. His performances for Leicester had made him one of the most sought-after players on the planet. That summer, he made the big move to one of England's true giants, Chelsea, for a fee of around £32 million. Some wondered if he could replicate his miracle success at a club with much, much higher expectations, under the intense glare of the London spotlight. He answered those questions immediately. Under a demanding new manager, N'Golo Kanté formed a formidable, suffocating midfield partnership with Nemanja Matic. And somehow, he was even better than he had been at Leicester. He had added more incisive passing and attacking drive to his game. But he was still, without question, the world's premier ball winner. In his very first season at Chelsea, he won the Premier League. Again. He became the first outfield player since the great Eric Cantona in 1993 to win back-to-back top-flight English titles with two different clubs. He was showered with individual awards: PFA Players Player of the Year, FWA Footballer of the Year, Premier League Player of the Season. He had well and truly conquered England. His next target was the world. He was now a key, undroppable part of the French national team under Didier Deschamps. For the 2018 World Cup in Russia, Deschamps built his team on a solid, impenetrable defensive foundation. A platform that was designed to allow the explosive talents of Kylian Mbappé and Antoine Griezmann to thrive. The absolute key to that entire foundation was N'Golo Kanté. He was the team's silent guardian. He patrolled the midfield like a sentinel, breaking up attacks before they could breathe, protecting his back four and tirelessly, selflessly linking the defense and the attack. He didn't score spectacular goals or produce dazzling, headline-grabbing skills, but his teammates knew his true value. Paul Pogba, his midfield partner, said it best. When you play with N'Golo, you can feel the security. He is everywhere. To have a player like him by my side, I am so much more free. France powered their way to the final against a brilliant Croatian side. On the morning of the biggest game of his life, disaster struck. N'Golo was suffering from a debilitating stomach bug. He was weakened, drained. But there was never any question of him not playing. He played, and while he wasn't at his superhuman best, he still gave every last ounce of energy he had. France won 4-2. They were world champions. During the euphoric celebrations, the famous Golden World Cup trophy was being passed around among the victorious French players. N'Golo, ever the shy one, hung back, not wanting to impose or interrupt. It was only when the more extroverted Steven Nzonzi noticed, took the trophy and personally handed it to him, that N'Golo finally got his moment with the prize he had dreamed of since he was a little boy. It was a perfect image, a perfect summary of the man, the world's best player in his position, too humble to even ask for the trophy he had done so much to win. That single image of the world's best player, too shy to ask for the trophy he'd just won, says everything about him. If you think this story of humility and hard work needs to be heard by more football fans, do me a favor and share this video with a friend. Back at Chelsea, he continued to add to his incredible medal collection, an FA Cup, a Europa League. But one prize, the biggest of them all, remained elusive: the UEFA Champions League. The 2020-2021 season saw Chelsea, now under the tactical genius of new manager Thomas Tuchel, embark on a remarkable run in Europe's elite competition. And as the stakes got higher, as the pressure intensified, N'Golo's performances reached a new breathtaking level of brilliance. In the semi-final against the mighty Real Madrid, a team filled with legendary midfielders like Toni Kroos and Luka Modric, N'Golo was without exaggeration the best player on the pitch across both legs. He was simply untouchable, a ghost they couldn't catch. He dominated the midfield battle, his endless running and uncanny anticipation, leaving Madrid's collection of global superstars chasing shadows. He was deservedly named Man of the Match in both the home and away legs. The final was against the formidable Manchester City, the newly crowned and utterly dominant champions of England. It was billed as a tactical chess match between two of the world's best managers, but in the end, it was decided by the individual brilliance of one man. N'Golo Kanté delivered one of the great individual performances in the history of Champions League finals. He covered every single blade of grass, he broke up countless City attacks, and he continually drove his team forward with the ball. He was once again simply everywhere. Chelsea won 1-0. For the third consecutive knockout game, semi-final first leg, semi-final second leg, and now the final, N'Golo Kanté was named Man of the Match. He had reached the absolute pinnacle of club football, and he had done it entirely his own way. In the years that followed, injuries sadly began to take their toll on the man. With a seemingly infinite engine, the relentless running, the thousands of miles in his legs, finally had a price. Yet whenever he returned to the pitch, he was the same N'Golo, smiling, working, and making the hardest game in the world look beautifully easy. In 2023, he began a new chapter, moving to Al Ittihad in Saudi Arabia, his place as an undisputed legend of European football forever secure. The story of N'Golo Kanté is so much more than just a footballing journey. It is a powerful testament to the forgotten virtues of humility, perseverance, and an unbreakable will. He is the boy who turned a childhood of profound hardship into a source of incredible world-beating strength. He is the player who was told repeatedly that he was too small, only to become one of the undisputed giants of the game. He is the global superstar who drives a Mini Cooper, the world champion, who is too shy to ask for the trophy. He completely redefined his position, proving that a defensive midfielder could be the most important, most influential player on the pitch. But more than that, he reminded the entire world of sport that character is every bit as important as a talent. In an age of ego excess and self-promotion, N'Golo Kanté is a quiet, smiling hero. The man who covered the earth, won it all, and never, ever forgot where he came from. And that is the incredible smiling legacy of N'Golo Kanté. What a player, what a man. I could talk about him all day, but now I want to hear from you. What's your favorite Kanté moment? Was it the Leicester miracle, the World Cup win, that Champions League final masterclass? Please share all your thoughts, your favorite memories, and any questions you still have down in the comments below. I absolutely love reading every single one and building this community of football lovers together.